The Trinity, which should more accurately be referred to as the triunity, but that's less easy to roll off the tongue. It's something that every Christian should believe in, um, and it's also something that every Christian believer will probably admit is almost impossible to explain. Yeah, all right, laugh it up. Every skeptic or people that don't believe in the Trinity will often take the fact that it's impossible to explain as a reason to believe that it's not true. Yeah, but there are a lot of things that we don't fully understand, but we still know that they're true, just because we don't have a complete picture of the whole thing. That shouldn't really be a problem. Anyway, with the Trinity, what you have is one being in three persons. And now, the first thing that's really difficult to understand about that is that we're very much used to seeing one being as one person. But I actually find this hard to grasp description of what God is more likely, given the things that we know about him. God is self-sufficient, yet he also embodies love. It would be impossible for one person on their own to embody love unless there was another person for them to give love to and to receive love from. Because if there wasn't another person to do that, then they wouldn't be self-sufficient. They would need a second person. So God couldn't be both self-sufficient and also embody love unless the Trinity is true. If God needed to create another person, he would not be self-sufficient. But if God is not more than one person himself, he would not be love. Also, God is an omnipotent, transcendent, all-powerful spirit being. I mean, it just makes sense that what he actually is beyond our comprehension. If we thought we understood him, then the thing we understand is probably too small and too simple to actually be God. The fact that the Trinity is incomprehensible is strangely actually a point in its favour. But even with that, that doesn't stop us from trying to explain it. The best we can do really is analogies, and every analogy we come up with is going to be falling short somewhere, but they can still help us kind of grasp parts of what we need to understand, at least. Seeing as God is perfectly unique, there's nothing like him in the universe, there is going to be no perfect analogy, but the ones that we do have can go some of the way, and maybe with like a combination of one and another, we can muddle them together into one thing that makes all of the things make sense. Um, but yeah, the thing with analogies is always, generally, you can't push them too far because they will break down, but they are just useful tools for getting some level of understanding. So anyway, here's the analogy I like to use, which goes at least some of the way, and for once, I'm not going to be using Star Wars to explain it. So in Star Trek, there's a species known as the Borg, and what they are is a sort of collective of individual units who are all connected through a hive mind. If Borg number 1 learns something, then Borg number 2 immediately knows it. They're connected in their minds. It's actually as if they only have one mind between them. They're all telepathically linked. I mean, it's not actually telepathy, it's technologically done somehow, like Wi-Fi or whatever, but tomato, tomato. So what we have here in this picture are 3 Borg units, but each one is fully connected to the thoughts and feelings of all the others. Each unit is a person, but they aren't individuals. Each unit is connected to the whole. If one of them speaks, it would say, I am Borg. But if all of them speak at the same time, they say, we are Borg. There's no differentiation between them. They don't say, I am a Borg. They say, I am Borg. We are Borg. They don't say, we are Borgs. They say, we are Borg. It's very singular, even though there's many of them. One unit contains the knowledge of the entire species within itself. So on its own, it is fully Borg. On its own, it can fully represent what it means to be Borg. But if you destroyed one Borg and you're left with 2 for some reason, that doesn't actually mean there's any less Borg, because each one is fully Borg. So losing one unit actually changes nothing about how much Borg there is. When you destroy one and you're left with 2, there is no less Borgness. The Borg would not be missing a part, it would still be complete. So with this picture of 3 Borg units, we have an analogy of how 3 individual beings can still be a full representation of one whole. Yeah, of course, like I said, the analogy has a lot of issues when we try to apply it to God, But analogies can only go so far, and this one I think does go a long way into helping understand this Trinity issue. We may also want to think of these as more like Borg queens rather than Borg drones, because the Borg queen has more autonomy, is actually in command, is in charge, gives orders to the other drones, whereas kind of the drones do. But this is where I'm getting into how the analogy breaks down rather than working, just letting it do what it does. So don't read too much into it.
I am the beginning, the end, the one who is many.
But anyway, what this analogy does do is it helps us to understand Jesus and his incarnation a bit more too. Over the course of the series, several Borg units were disconnected from the collective and returned back to society. Having been removed from the collective, they're still the full Borg that they are, but they have been separated from the others, and so because of that, their Borg abilities become kind of limited. They're no longer having that telepathic link, and they no longer have the advantages of the hive mind. Jesus was God made human, so it was a bit like taking a Borg baby full of everything that it means to be a Borg, and then freeing it from the collective, disconnecting it, and having it live amongst humans. It has several Borg advantages, but also adopts many human weaknesses as it grows. On reaching maturity, the now grown Borg, having completed its mission, is then reassimilated into the Borg collective, and it becomes a perfect mediator between Borg and mankind. Again, yeah, the analogy, it's not perfect at all, but it helps. It helps. I think it helps a lot. I mean, as long as you're a sci-fi fan and you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, that's as far as I'm going to push this. Pushing it where no apologist has gone before.